"Excuse me, sir, but this line is for customers only." The cashier's voice was sharp, impatient. Her name tag read Amber, and the curl of her lip said everything about how she saw the man before her. The old man looked confused, his brows furrowing as he clutched a packet of batteries and a small American flag in his calloused hands. His posture was slightly hunched, his coat too big for his thin frame. "I buy. Yes, I buy. Yes," he said, thickly accented, broken English stumbling from his lips like cracked pottery. Behind him, a younger man snickered under his breath. "Jesus, what is this?" "ESL day at the store." Amber crossed her arms. "Sir, do you have money? Or do you even understand what I'm saying?" The old man nodded, a soft smile spreading over his lips. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a weathered leather wallet. Inside were neatly folded bills and an old military ID card. He showed her the cash. "Oh," Amber said, rolling her eyes. "He's got money." Shocking. The man behind him, a tall, muscular guy in his 30s, wearing a sports cap and holding a case of beer, couldn't help himself. "Can't even talk right and somehow has money. Probably scammed it out of welfare, I swear. These old folks get more handouts than anyone." The old man's hand trembled slightly as he placed the items on the counter. His name was Min Dao, 73 years old. Retired military advisor. Bronze Star recipient. Fluent in 6 languages. And mocked in that moment like he was nothing. Sorry, my English, not good. I try." His voice was soft, humble. Amber didn't reply. She simply scanned the items and gave him the total. Min handed over exact change, bowed politely, and took his small bag, his eyes shining a little too much for someone just shopping. As Min turned to leave, the young man behind him muttered loudly, "Welcome to America, huh? Learn the language or get lost." Min paused. He stood there, still, like a mountain holding back an avalanche. He turned his head slightly and looked back, not with anger, not with shame, but with something deeper: sadness, disappointment. No one could quite name it. "Why, was advisor," he said quietly, "to American troops. 5 country, I try English, to save life, maybe yours." The young man blinked, thrown off. "What?" But Min was already walking out, his old sneakers scuffing across the store floor, carrying a lifetime of stories no one had asked to hear. Outside, the wind tugged at the edges of his coat. Min walked slowly down the sidewalk, passing cafes filled with laughter, neon signs buzzing above him. He didn't stop walking until he reached the Veterans Center across the street. Inside, the warmth of familiarity embraced him. "Min," a voice called. A tall man with silver hair and a navy sweatshirt strode over and gave him a firm hug. "You back from your appointment?" Min nodded. "Yes, David. I go store. Some, not nice people." David Sloan frowned. He had served with Min in Iraq, back when Min was embedded with USS Special Forces as a language and strategy advisor. Min was a legend in their circles, the quiet man who could diffuse a tribal war with a phrase, who could slip between dialects like water, who had walked through gunfire with nothing but a translator's vest and a map. David said, "You want to talk about it?" Min shook his head. Okay. Just, people forget." David sighed. "They always do, until they need something." They sat down at a round table in the rec room. The walls were covered in photos, soldiers, medals, memorial plaques. One showed Min in full uniform, standing between Afghan elders, his arms outstretched as he mediated a peace deal that saved a village. "You still keeping that speech you gave in Nigeria?" David asked. Min smiled faintly. "Yes. In Yoruba. Took me 3 weeks to learn. You crushed it," David said. Every officer in that room was stunned. Just then, a young woman stepped in, late 20s, glasses, clipboard in hand. "Mr. Dow." Min stood slowly. "I'm Clara Nguyen. The mayor's office sent me. They're planning a ceremony for foreign-born veterans. Your name came up more than once. I not deserve. I know fight. I advise." She smiled warmly. "You saved lives. That matters." Min bowed his head. Okay, thank you. 3 days later, the ceremony began in the town's public square. Flags waved, speeches were read, families gathered. And then came Min's turn. He walked up slowly to the microphone. At first, the crowd saw only an old man with hesitant steps. Some even recognized him from the store. Whispers started. That's the guy with the broken English. Didn't he get yelled at in the store last week? But when Min spoke, the entire square fell silent. I come from Vietnam. War take my father, my village. Why survive? I walk 1 month, no shoe. I learn English not from book, from soldier, American soldier. He say, you help us. We help you. So I help. His voice trembled, but his eyes shone with fire. I serve in Iraq, Afghanistan, Nigeria, South Sudan, and Colombia. I learn language each time. I not fight with gun. I fight with word. I speak peace. Sometime, 1 word, 1 sentence, save 100 life. Gasps rippled through the crowd. I not perfect English, but I speak with heart. He paused, breathing deeply. Last week, I go store. Some people laugh. Say, speak better English. Say, go away. I say nothing. But today, I say this. Freedom not need perfect grammar. Respect not need perfect accent. My blood same color as yours. The applause was thunderous. In the back, Amber and the young man from the store stood frozen. She whispered, that's him. That's the guy. He couldn't meet Min's eyes. After the speech, dozens of people lined up to shake Min's hand. Photos were taken. A boy asked for his autograph. The mayor hugged him. And then, slowly, the young man came forward. Cap in hand, voice cracking. I'm sorry, he said. I didn't know. Min looked at him quietly. Now, you do. The man nodded. Thank you for your service. Min gave him a gentle smile. You welcome. Learn, not just English, learn people. That night, Min sat in his small apartment. The flag he bought now sat by his window. He stared at it a long time. His phone buzzed. A message from David. You made us proud today. Min typed back slowly. Each letter chosen with care. Not about proud, about peace. Outside, the world moved on. But one old man, mocked for his broken English, had reminded a town what true service meant. And that was a language everyone understood. After the ceremony, the crowd slowly dispersed. But Min didn't leave right away. He stood alone near the podium, staring at the folded flag he'd been handed. The fabric felt heavy in his hands, heavier than any metal, heavier than all the years that had passed. Behind him, Clara approached again. Mr. Dow, would you be willing to do an interview with the local paper? They want to feature your story. Min hesitated. Why now? Clara looked down. Because people forget. But stories help them remember. He looked at her, searching her face. She looked young, too young to remember any war, too kind to have ever shouted at someone for poor English. Finally, he nodded. Okay, I try. They scheduled the interview for that weekend. When the day came, a young reporter named Jamie Reyes showed up to the Veterans Center. She had a recorder, a notepad, and a deep curiosity in her eyes. Mr. Dow, she said as she shook his hand. It's an honor. I've read a bit about your service, but there's so little on record. Do you mind if I ask some personal questions? Min gave a polite smile. You ask, I answer. Jamie turned on the recorder. Can you tell me about the first time you helped American troops? Min leaned back in his chair, his eyes drifting to the past. It was 1969. I was 20. My village in Quang province had many bombings. One day, a patrol of American soldiers get ambushed. I hear screaming. My brother. He run toward noise. I follow. We find one soldier, his leg gone, he cry. Others hide. I no speak English good, but I say, come, hide safe. I lead them to cave we use in monsoon. Save 6 men. Jamie was scribbling furiously. That's incredible. And then you joined them. Min nodded slowly. I helped translate. Vietnamese to English, English to Montagnard, then later to Arabic, Hausa. Spanish. I learned language by ear, not book. Too poor for book, Jamie asked. You served in 5 different countries. 5 official, Min said. Some I know can talk about. CIA places me with troops to advise tribal leaders. Speak truth, calm fire. She leaned forward. Did you ever feel like people didn't respect you, even when you were saving lives? Min looked down. His voice was quiet, always. Accent too strong. Words not perfect. Some laugh. Call me monkey, even some soldier. But I not angry. I understand. World not fair. I just work harder. Jamie was silent for a moment. Then she asked, was it worth it? Min looked at her with tears in his eyes. I save people. Even one life, worth all. The article came out a week later. The title read, The Voice of Peace, How One Immigrant Veteran Quietly Changed the World. It was shared online thousands of times. In the days that followed, something shifted in the town. Where once Min had walked invisible, he now walked with nods and smiles from strangers. Children pointed him out to their parents. That's the soldier man, they'd whisper. Amber, the cashier, left an envelope at the Veterans Center. Inside was a handwritten letter. Mr. Dow, I'm sorry. I was cruel and ignorant. I didn't see the person standing in front of me. Thank you for your kindness, your bravery, and your patience with people like me. I will never forget you, Amber. Min placed the letter in a drawer beside his medals. It wasn't pride, he felt, just healing. But not everything was applause and apologies. One night, Min received a phone call from an unfamiliar number. Min Dow. Yes, this is Colonel Raymond Banks. We served together in Baghdad in 2004. I saw the article. Min blinked. Colonel Banks. You still alive? Banks laughed. Barely. Listen, I work with the Pentagon now. Veterans Affairs. Your story's been circulating. I want to ask, would you consider speaking at the International Military Symposium in D.C. next month? Topic is the power of language in warfare. Min went quiet. Me. Speak in Washington. Banks answered. Min, you're the only one who can. We'll cover everything. Min didn't say yes right away. That night, he stood at his window, looking out at the quiet streets. He touched the old scars on his hands, reminders of a grenade that once tore through his skin in Colombia. He touched the small jade pendant around his neck, his mother's last gift before the Americans evacuated Saigon. And then he whispered, okay, I go. 3 weeks later, Min stood at the Walter E. Washington Convention Center. He wore a tailored suit, his military ribbons carefully pinned to his chest. He stepped onto the stage before a crowd of hundreds, generals, ambassadors, historians. When he began to speak, his accent was still there, but now it carried power. I was never soldier with gun. I was soldier with word. When bullet fly, you think word not matter, but word is everything. Word stop war, word save life, word change heart. He told them of the tribes in South Sudan, where one mistranslated phrase nearly caused a massacre. He told them of a night in Iraq when he convinced a local sheikh to call off a suicide attack by invoking a phrase from the Quran. He told them of the pain of being laughed at for his English. But I never let laugh stop me. I use laugh as lesson. I learned more. By the end of his speech, the entire auditorium was on its feet. When Min stepped off stage, a young officer approached him. Sir, he said, choking up, my father was in that village you saved in Afghanistan. He never knew your name, but he told me it was a man with broken English who saved his whole team. Min smiled and simply said, broken English, but full heart. When Min returned home, he was greeted at the airport by a small crowd of veterans, school children, Clara, David. A banner read, welcome home, hero. Even the mayor was there. Mr. Dow, we'd like to name the town's new library, wing after you, the Min Dow Peace and Language Center. Min shook his head slowly. Too much. I just one man. The mayor smiled. One man, but 5 countries. Countless lives. Months passed. Min began volunteering at local schools, teaching kids about world cultures. He helped young immigrants learn English, not from books, but from stories, from games, from heart. He told them, don't fear your voice, even if it sounds different. Speak anyway, loud, clear, with love. One day, Jamie Reyes returned, this time with a camera crew. She was producing a documentary. Title, she asked. Min chuckled. I try my English. That what I always say. No, Jamie smiled, tears in her eyes. I have a better one. The man who spoke peace. And Min, he just smiled again, bowed slightly, and whispered, okay, I like that. From store ridicule to standing ovations, from harsh laughter to historic speeches, Min Dao, the man mocked for broken English, had written a legacy far greater than words. Because in the end, it wasn't how he said things that mattered. It was what he meant. And what he meant changed the world. A month after the documentary aired on national TV, Min's life shifted again, not in noise, but in quiet acknowledgments. People who once glanced past him now stopped to ask questions. Children at the school where he volunteered brought him handmade cards. One card from a girl named Ellie had a crayon drawing of Min standing in front of 5 flags. He gently placed that card beside the old photographs on his apartment wall. But even as the world finally saw him, Min still carried the weight of what they didn't see. One rainy evening, as the streets glistened under the dim glow of streetlights, Min sat in his armchair and pulled out an old wooden box. Inside were yellowed letters, faded photographs, and a small notebook filled with names of the men and women he had helped over the years. Some were still alive, some he could only pray were at peace. He turned to one name, Staff Sergeant Lucas Miller, 2003, Fallujah. Min had convinced a local imam to call off a retaliation strike. Lucas had shaken his hand that day. Min whispered, you say you named son after me. I never asked if you did. He looked around his empty room, the silence loud with memories. The next morning, Min returned to the Veterans Center and found David waiting at the front desk with 2 mugs of coffee. Guess what? David said, sliding one toward him. I got a call from the Smithsonian. They want to include you in their new exhibit on unsung military advisors. They're asking for a quote. Min blinked. Quote. Like one sentence. Yeah. Something that sums up your journey. Min thought a moment, then said, I never use gun, only word. But word, powerful like bullet if used right. David chuckled. That's you, all right. Later that week, Min was invited to speak again, this time at a high school, as he stood on stage before hundreds of teenagers, many wearing hoodies and earbuds. He smiled softly. When I your age, I lose family in war. I walk long road, many pain. But I learned something, your voice is your power. Maybe your English not perfect. Maybe people laugh, but you speak anyway. He paused. One time, I say calm instead of come. It's stop a fight. One wrong word can start war. One right word, save a life. After the assembly, a Latino boy named Miguel approached him quietly. Mr. Dow, I get laughed at for my English too. I wanted to stop speaking. Min placed a hand on his shoulder. No stop. You speak. You learn. Then you teach. Min gave him a small pin from his old uniform. Keep for strength. Miguel's eyes lit up. Thank you, sir. But not all moments were as warm. That winter, Min collapsed in his apartment. A neighbor found him hours later. At the hospital, doctors diagnosed him with a mild stroke. David rushed in the next morning. You're gonna be okay, he said, gripping Min's hand. Min smiled faintly. Body weak, but still fight. While Min recovered, the town rallied behind him. Cards, flowers, visitors. Even Amber from the store came to see him. She stood awkwardly at the foot of his bed. Mr. Dow, I was awful to you. I'll never stop saying sorry for that. Min, frail but kind as ever, said. You say sorry. I say thank you, she said, confused. He nodded. Because you helped me start story. She looked at him through watery eyes. You're amazing, he smiled. No, just stubborn. Weeks passed. Min regained some strength. He resumed walking with a cane, and though his hands trembled more than before, his voice remained steady. That spring, the town hosted a Voices of Veterans event in his honor. The school choir sang in 5 languages, one for each country he served in. Each verse was a tribute to Min's efforts, translated with care by students he'd helped. Clara introduced him with a speech that left no eye dry. This man didn't just advise troops, he advised peace. He spoke when others shouted. He listened when others judged. He taught us that broken English can still mend the world. As Min walked up to the podium slowly, the audience rose to its feet. Some veterans saluted. Others simply wept. "I was child of war," he began. "Now I old man of peace." He reached into his jacket and pulled out his mother's jade pendant. "My mother give me this. She say, no matter where you go, carry home in heart. I carry my home, and I carry yours." He looked across the crowd, locking eyes with young and old alike. "English not my first language, but love is." Months later, Min received a letter postmarked from Nigeria. It was from a young woman named Aisha, daughter of a tribal leader he once helped during a food crisis. "Mr. Dow, my father speaks of you still. He says you were not just translator. You were guardian of dignity. I am studying diplomacy now. I want to be like you. Thank you." Aisha J. Min held the letter to his chest and wept quietly. Then, one day, David knocked on his door with unexpected news. "Min, I've been talking to folks in D.C. The president's awarding a special medal for non-combat military heroes. You're on the list." Min blinked. "No, I not deserve." David smiled. "You always say that, but this time, you don't get to decide." And so, on a bright morning in June, Min Dow stood in the White House Rose Garden. Reporters, generals, and dignitaries watched as the president placed a medal around his neck. "To a man who never fired a weapon, but disarmed more hatred than any soldier could," the president said. The world finally knew what those closest to him always had. Min Dow wasn't just a veteran. He was a bridge between cultures, a vessel of compassion, a humble giant whose accent carried wisdom, whose silences held courage, whose broken English spoke clearer than any polished speech. Years later, when Min passed peacefully in his sleep, the whole town mourned. The flag at the library flew at half-mast. His casket was draped in both the American and Vietnamese flags. At his funeral, David spoke last. He taught us that broken words can build unbreakable peace, that kindness, even when mocked, endures. Min didn't just serve 5 countries, he served humanity. As taps played and tears fell, a new plaque was unveiled outside the Veterans Center. "Mine Age Dow, advisor, diplomat, hero broken English, full heart." And in the crowd, Miguel, now grown, now a teacher, stood holding his son, who clutched that old military pin like it was gold. Because some stories never fade, some voices echo forever, and some men, even when mocked, teach the world how to speak with love.